So today I want to talk about Diego Necalli, and the reason I want to talk about him is because it seems like a lot of people are starting to like him now, which I find quite hilarious because really ever since our first introduction to the Chaos storyline, I've been saying Diego's probably, even like when we got our first taste of it, I said Diego's probably going to be the best character, and I stayed consistent with that for the most part. I mean, I never really said any other character was better than Diego, but of course, with me saying that, a lot of people kind of disagreed with me, to say the very least. I can name at least 3 different people and remember a couple other ones. I can't remember their names, but there's a lot of people who disagreed with me when I said Diego was the best character. But regardless, that really doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about here. All I'm trying to say is that I was right about Diego being the best character. Now everybody's just coming around my corner now. Again, nothing to do with what we're talking about, but thought I should mention it. But regardless, like I said, the reason I want to talk about Diego is because it seems like he's becoming this important character to the Chaos storyline. Because before this, I mean, there really wasn't anything obvious about Diego that he really added to the storyline. I mean, you think about every other character, they always kind of had their thing, like why they were important to this story. I mean, obviously you have Scarlet, and I don't think I need to explain why Scarlet was important to the story. I mean, we're looking for her father. I mean, that's kind of her thing. That's kind of the main reason why this story even exists. She's the one who got in contact with all of them, so she's pretty important. And then, of course, Shaw, he's important because he's the one who made the elixirs, and he's a alchemicalist and all that stuff. And then later, of course, it became important because now he has Dark Shaw. And Bruno, like Diego, for the longest time, really didn't have anything special to him that was that obvious. But then, of course, Dark Bruno kind of popped up, and we know why he's important now. But nothing like that really happened for Diego that was at least obvious for most people. There's nothing like, even throughout Ancient Evil, there wasn't like some obvious thing about Diego why he was important. But then people started realizing that Diego just might be the main character of this story, or if not the main character, at least the character's eyes that we are experiencing this through. Kind of like Dempsey in the case of, if you guys have been following the Ether storyline, you would know that most of the time when we are watching cutscenes and stuff like that, it's always through the perspective of Dempsey for the most part. But of course, that's why people are saying maybe something relates to that, or maybe he's just the main character altogether. And the reason people are saying this, and I don't want to take any credit to this, this is actually made from a bunch of different people, but the connections people made were actually that he's kind of been the main focal point of every single intro and outro cutscene, except with the exception of the maps he wasn't involved in and the ending to Voyage. But really the rest of them, he's kind of been the focal point of every single one of them, even starting all the way back at Voyage. I mean, with the Voyage intro cutscene, of course, you see how it starts. I mean, it starts off showing Diego, and he's the one talking. He's kind of not really narrating, but he's the one talking, kind of asking how this plan's going to go down and everything. He's just kind of the one asking the questions to make sure he knows what's going on. And then, of course, inside the intro to 9, I mean, there's nobody really talking outside of the Oracle for the most part, but if you actually see which character they follow the most, it's clearly Diego. I mean, when they're actually inhaling the vapors, it doesn't show Scarlet, it doesn't show Bruno, it doesn't show Shaw, it actually shows Diego. When he inhales it, his eyes go black, the screen goes black, but then it shows him again, Diego, all over again, and he's the one that they show awakening inside the ancient Egypt, Rome, whatever it's called. It's a place, if you guys are confused about what 9 is, it's in Egypt, but there's a place in Egypt called Rome, and it's a little bit confusing, but regardless, it's not really that important to what we're talking about. But like I said, this intro had followed Diego really all the way through for the most part. Then, of course, after that, you have the ending cutscene to 9, and I mean, again, where do we kind of end off in 9? I mean, let's just see where the ending cutscene ended off in 9, of course, with Diego's head being held up again, ending off with Diego once again. But, of course, this continued inside Ancient Evil, and who do we see awakening right away from the 9 vapor hallucination things? Of course, it's Diego all over again, but really that's the only thing he has to do there. That's not really a strong thing. And then, of course, with the ending to Ancient Evil, it's kind of following Diego more than anything. I mean, of course, there is a lot of Scarlet. Regardless, he's kind of, again, the main focus out of our characters throughout almost every single cutscene, and it just seems like he's becoming more and more important. And these are good reasons for people to think that Diego is actually going to be an important character, just because a lot of the times the cutscenes are actually, following him all the way through, or at least he seemed like the main focal point of these cutscenes. But on top of that, he actually has some more unique features to him that may have flew under the radar. One, because it just seems like he's a certain type of person, and the other one is really don't see it unless you read the comics of course, when he is meeting with Alistair. And the first one I want to talk about is one that's actually been pointed out, but the other one I don't think many people have actually realized and why he might be important. But the first one is that his obviously his charm thing. I mean, a lot of people realize that, I guess, Diego has his whole charm thing that attracts every girl ever. Obviously, this could be looked over as just, that's his character type, and it may be. I mean, that's entirely possible, but there are some reasons to believe otherwise, that there may be something more to how he's kind of able to charm women so well, and it's just not a character type they're going for. Because there's actually a quote when you play as Diego, and if you guys have spent even one game playing as Diego inside Ancient Evil, it's really his first quote. I think he plays it every single time. It's round 3, if I'm not mistaken, where he says, "I can't get my mind off Scarlet. She's not like other women. She's unaffected by my charm," or somewhere along those lines. So it's really surprising him that Scarlet isn't affected by it. And since we do know from the ending cutscene to Ancient Evil, we know Scarlet is probably some sort of demigod or god or something like that. But of course, that's a different video for a different day. So he can notice something different about her. But of course, this is just something to keep note of. It's nothing guaranteed to really say that he's something special. But there is one last thing I want to bring up that is probably a pretty important part of Diego's character. Because if you guys have read Diego's comic book where he's meeting with Alistair, you'd actually know that the medallion that Scarlet has in the intro cutscene to Voyage of Despair, the one that activates the Sentinel artifact, that was actually Diego's. And where Diego got it from is from his family. And what he says inside the comics is that his family has been passing down this medallion for centuries upon centuries, just keep on passing it down to the next generation to keep safe. And this is where it gets interesting, because it makes you think that Diego comes from a special sort of family that for some reason has a medallion that can activate the Sentinel artifacts, which, I mean, most people shouldn't have that, but for some reason Diego's family has had it for millennia, and for some reason has been tasked with keeping it safe. And it's just really strange to see that, and it really makes you think, what is this bloodline Diego came from? Is Diego something more also? Is he also some sort of demigod? It would explain why Diego has obviously had the medallion for the longest time, and why his family keeps track of it, and also his charm that he has, because they could play off again as one of his character traits, but also they could explain it that, well, the reason he could charm women so well is because he is a demigod or something like that. Of course, he doesn't have to be a demigod. He could just be something from some other mythology, because you have to remember, we're dealing with multiple different mythologies. We're dealing with Norse mythology, Greek mythology, not Roman so far, but we'll probably get Roman. Of course, we have that weird Irish mythology that I never really heard of, and of course there's Egyptian mythology. So we're dealing with a lot of them. So he could be some sort of different type of, let's just say, demigod for now, because it's easy to say that. And regardless, the point is, he could be coming from a special bloodline that has been aware. I mean, maybe he has some ties to the Lord's Nine. If you guys know what that is, then that's some points for you. But regardless, it's just that I'm thinking that Diego's probably has his own special traits that we are just not aware of. He might just be, the next time we see the Chaos storyline, if we do, that he might be kind of the wild card of the story, kind of going to be that story twist of this Chaos storyline. He may be becoming more and more important, and it may explain why we really haven't seen a special trait for him, or at least something special that he adds to the storyline, unlike all the other ones. And this may be what it is that he has something hidden. It's something hidden in his bloodline, in the family he came from, because again, not everybody's going to have the activation medallion for a Sentinel artifact if they don't know what it is. People do not tell people to keep something safe if they don't know what it is. So it's just something that I find quite fascinating. I think we should all expect something from Diego whenever we see the storyline all over again. I imagine it's going to be some sort of twist coming along down the road, but regardless, I would, if you guys want to keep your eyes on one character just to make sure you don't miss anything, it is Diego. I think Diego is the one we should keep our eyes on. Yes, there are some interesting things with Scarlet and her demigod thing that we're probably going to get, which is also interesting. And also, of course, Shaw and Bruno have this dark versions of themselves in their head, which is also interesting. But I think the one to watch out for is going to be Diego. He's probably going to be the character that's going to do something special and have some very, very important role in the future of this storyline. But anyways, that's all I really have to say here. Tell me what you guys think about all of this. You guys expect something to happen out of Diego? Do you think he's just going to continue to be the really nothing character? Well, I guess I couldn't say he's a nothing character, but you know, the not as significant character as the others, at least, that contribute to the story. But I just love to hear what you guys think about all of this that I'm saying. Again, do you agree, disagree? Yeah, want to add something new? Want to come up with something entirely different or anything like that? Go and do that all down in the comment section. But anyways, if you guys do want to see more, I guess, Chaos storyline videos, you got to show me with some views, likes, subscriptions, stuff like that. But anyways, that's about it for me. But I'm going to go and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or whatever it may be. But laters, guys.